Okay, Brian, so we've talked about what rebalancing is, and we've talked about why we do it and some of the benefits of it and some of the big impact it can have. But here's the big question that everybody wants to know. Okay, I'm sold. You got me. I'm in. But how do I do it? How do I go about rebalancing? What are the things I need to know if I want to make sure that I'm systematically and consistently rebalancing my portfolio?
But everybody's going to have questions.
Sure.
And let's go ahead and just knock these out. The first one is, how often should I do it?
Yeah, it's a great one.
And look, I'll tell you, in the content meeting, we were talking about like, man, is this something you should do daily? Is this something you should do weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually? Where's the actual perfect ideal point? Because I do think that there is as a former tax preparer, you guys know I did tax preparation for 16 years as part of my journey of becoming a financial advisor and growing this practice, is that you can do too much of a good thing, because the people who are day trading, anybody who's ever had a client who's a day trader, if you were rebalancing on a daily basis, I think the transactions, the cost, the tax compliance, it's just too much. Yep. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I think that daily, weekly, that gets a little scary.
Sure.
Now, I think the big thing when you're talking about monthly, quarterly, and annually, the big thing is, are you consistent?
That's it. Nailed it.
If you are
Nailed
consistent with your behavior, I think that somewhere between those three, as long as you are making sure the behavior is occurring, is where you need to live.
No, I think it's interesting, and we'll talk about this in a moment. There's a difference in looking at a rebalance and actually rebalancing. So you may say, you know what, I'm going to look at rebalancing twice a year. What that doesn't mean is that you're actually going to place trades twice a year, because then you have to answer the next question. What triggers a rebalance? How will I know when it does make sense for me to get back to target? Is it going to be a time period thing? Like every 6 months I'm going to place a trade? Am I going to add some tolerance bands saying, okay, I know that I want to be 50% allocated here, but if it goes to 45, I'm going to buy more. If it goes to 55, I'm going to sell some. Or is it just going to be something that I have it, set it and forget it, automatically I'm going to just go back to the 60-40 every year, one time, click a button? You have to answer that question for you, is what does trigger rebalance? Now, we already talked to you about there are some planning things you can do, like loss harvesting, charitable giving. We didn't even talk about capital gain avoidance, which is another huge planning thing you can do at the end of the year every year to save on your taxes. Maybe it's event driven, but you have to answer that question. How often do I do it? And then how do I know when I'm actually going to pull the trigger and start moving money around?
Well, and you make a great point, because we look, a lot of you guys who are clients, you came to us because you watch Money Guy content. I don't want any of you guys watching this to be like, hey, how do I because I don't see on my quarterly reports that you guys are pulling the trigger every month to rebalance. And that's why, and some of you have asked about this in the past, and we were like, every quarter, we are definitely reviewing the asset allocation, but it doesn't mean that we're actually pulling the trigger every quarter, because sometimes there is slight variation. This leads to the third point that we were talking about, is all rebalancing treated equally? Now, if you're investing 3 to 4% in an asset class, and it is now 1 to 2% different, now you're talking about this could easily be a 30 to 40% spread. That is probably something you should talk about.
Big deal, big change.
Versus, let's take something like a large cap S&P 500, which might be 45 to 55% of your portfolio. Is it that big of a deal that you've got drift to 56 or 57%? I would tell you, from a materiality standpoint, it's a much smaller threshold. So you need to be consistent, but you also don't need to be so over the top that you're getting busy doing nothing when it's not adding a lot of value.
Okay, great. So I can answer these questions, but now I want to think about practically, in practice, how do I think about doing this? And I know that technology has made it easier to be an investor. Technology is something that has been a huge boon in the financial world. And so now I know that there are actually things I can do or have a robot do it. I can actually pay a service, and I can just set up, and I don't have to think about it. I can just tell it what to do, and I can have a robo rebalance or a robo advisor doing that. Is that the solution? Is that a solution I should do?
We all know. I'm the biggest kid in the room. I might be the older person here, but I'm definitely the biggest kid, so I love the childhood fables. And you think about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and her poor journey to find the right fitting chair, bed, and of course the right porridge. And you're hoping you do find that also with rebalancing, because I want to go through a fable for you in the investment world. Let's talk about first the robo-advisors.
Sure.
You brought the machines in.
Yep.
Everybody seems to be talking about all the machines and how they're going to replace us humans. But here's what I know about the machines. When I look at all these robo-advisors that came on the scene and they start marketing off of, we are rebalancing, I don't know if they're telling you the daily, the weekly, they're talking about the tax loss harvesting. Being a former tax preparer, I can tell you they do it too much.
Sure.
If I'm the Goldilocks, I'm like, ooh, that is too much, because they send you these 1099s at the end of the year and you're like, that is a lot of accounting I'm going to have to take advantage of. And I don't know if there's a lot of alpha just from being driven to that activity.
Yep.
So if we say that that's too much, Goldilocks is going to go to the next bowl of porridge, and she's going to taste it. And this is the do-it-yourselfer. And look, there's a lot of you guys, because we give away tons of free content, and you're going to say, well, I'll just do this myself. And I think that's great. I want to invite you on the journey. First, we always tell you, look at those index target retirement funds, because they just take this out of your control.
That's right.
You focus on how much you can save when you need it. But those of you who are beyond that point, but you're still a do-it-yourselfer, you're thinking, I'll do this myself. There's research that shows you might intend to do it, but unfortunately, according to this article that we found, hidden retirement risk, 85% of workers aren't rebalancing their 401k. So you might have the intent, but the do is somehow being avoided.
Well, it makes sense. We all get busy, right? We all think, you know what, okay, I'm going to start investing. I'm going to take this seriously. New Year's resolution, I'm going to be active in my portfolio. And then the kids things happen, and then the job thing happens, and then the church thing happens, and then all of a sudden you're pulled in 1,000 different directions, and it's November, and you're like, holy cow, I haven't even looked at my portfolio at all this year, and we just don't do it. And so you fall into one of those case studies where that portfolio, that 60-40 that you thought you had, isn't really a 60-40 anymore, because it is so easy for us to let the financial things in our life that aren't on fire just fall to the back burner. And unfortunately, rebalancing usually isn't a thing that's on fire for most investors. It's something that's an afterthought, sort of in the back of the mind, not paid a lot of attention to, so it just falls off.
So we've already got doing it too much, doing it too little. The Goldilocks just right, of course, leads back to the abundance cycle. Why not bring in somebody on the professional side so that they are paid in a very reasonable way to make sure that you're consistently rebalancing, that you're consistently taking this into account in your overall tax plan, that you're consistently implementing this when it comes to your charitable giving goals and all the other things that are playing into your retirement dates. All this stuff gets complicated. As I've shared with you guys many, many times, we can give away so much free advice because I know the desire for humans is we want our lives to be simple. And we want to set it, forget it, and create automatic, inevitable wealth. But the reality is once you do create that inevitable wealth, your life gets complicated.
That's right.
And that's why I can get you there. I can invest in you. I can just share the abundance cycles, because just naturally the cycle is going to make your life complicated. And then you'll remember who planted the seeds. And that's why this is paid off. And that's why we work with people all across the country. So if you love what you've heard here and you're like, man, I like financial advisors that are willing to get their hands dirty and actually get into the depths of what happens with tax planning, how this all plays into my glide path for retirement, how I'm going to pull this into withdrawal strategies. That's what we do. We are not the sales folks. You know, when people go to parties and they say, hey, what do you do for a living? I always cringe when I want to say, I'm a financial planner, because they're like, is he going to whip out a life insurance policy or is he going to try to
sell me something?
No, I love just answering questions. I think you guys can tell we have built an entire platform because we're technicians. Everyone who works here, I did a studio tour yesterday, Bo, and there was a couple and their clients, and they're like, man, your guys, they are loading me up. I mean, they are doing so good. I mean, it made my heart just want to sing. I wish if my heart could sing better than my voice, we'd be, there's a reason we live in Nashville. I might be famous for that. But it is one of those things where it makes me so happy. We love working with clients. I would encourage you, Bo, if you're early in the journey, keep subscribing.
Yep,
we love giving away free content. We don't even mind if it takes you 10 years to get to that level of success that you need us. Just keep on taking the free stuff. We don't mind. If you want to accelerate, you can always go to moneyguy.com/resources to get the free deliverables. If you want to even take it into the fast lane or spring your finances even faster, go check out our courses at learn.moneyguy.com. We have something for everyone. It's very deliberate because we want to reach you where you need to be reached so you can start stacking those small decisions that are going to have a huge impact in your future self.